thank you so much for joining me on the webinar today. I am here to talk about, it's actually an amazing project that we're involved in, and we're fortunate enough that this project, this film, actually aired on National Geographic Explorer last month in November, and it was called Into the Lost Crystal Caves. Sorry, I'm having a little problem with my audio here, so just one moment. You can hear me okay? All right, great. So I'm here to talk, and it'll probably take about 30 minutes. And if you have any questions afterwards, please feel free to type them in, and we'll discuss whatever you want to discuss about this amazing amazing cave. So just to give you a little bit of a background, as Jessica said, my name's Angie Lucht, and I'm actually, just to give you a little history of my work, I'm a mountain rescuer for about 9 years now, and I'm actually a SPRAT Level 2 certified rescue rope access technician. And I work for, basically I'm a private contractor, and I work for a couple of different companies. And one of those companies happens to be a company called Strike Rescue. And I've done some projects over the years with them. The owner, Mark Beverly, has been involved with the Crystal Caves and National Geographic for the last couple of years. And he got our team involved in this project in Mexico last year. So this is a picture of the team, Mark obviously on the left there. And you have to have that token girl there in the middle. That's me, and then Jason and Justin as well. And combined, we have the, Mark is actually an AMGA certified guide, and we all have mountain rescue experience. So how National Geographic got involved? The Crystal Cave was actually discovered in 2000, and the Discovery Channel actually became involved in it first. And that first film, I believe it was out in 2005 with the Italian explorers. That was actually on the Discovery Channel, but National Geographic got involved around 2006, and it definitely was the right step, and goes along with a lot of their programming. So to give you a little bit of background of the history of the caves, they are located about an hour southeast of Chihuahua, Mexico, in the state of Chihuahua, and then southeast of the city of Chihuahua in Naica. You can see it down there in the middle of the screen. And so the caves are actually on mine property, and the mine is called Naica, and it's the largest mine in the country. It produces lead, zinc, and silver, and it's been around since the 1700s. So it's definitely, has a history. And actually, the first mine was, the first crystal cave was actually found in about 1917, I believe, and has been unfortunately destroyed, since then. But with all of the mining that goes on there, and the delicate nature of the crystals, it's not not really conducive to keeping the caves pristine per se. So this is the mining operation. It has basically, all of these caves that I'll show you the pictures of and we'll talk about, have been underwater at one point or the other at one time. And it takes a lot of pumping to get the water out. And they're not pumping the water out to look for caves. They're pumping it out to build tunnels and to do mining. And this gives you, the interesting thing is the pumping system, this fact is kind of interesting, extracts 22,000 gallons of water per minute, which is just an incredible amount of water and amount of money that it takes to make that happen. So here we're looking at, this is where, when Strike Rescue was hired to go down and do some exploration, the main reason was they had evidence of a possibility of a new crystal cave. So we were hired to go down and explore this particular hole that they drilled. And this is a picture on the left-hand side. They're called robin holes. And the mine goes in there and they drill these massive holes in hopes that they can find more of the minerals that they're looking for. So in the process, in 2005, they drilled a hole in, and in those core samples, they found evidence of gypsum crystal. So in this overview, you can see this is kind of the landscape of where a lot of this happens, of where they're drilling, and it's quite interesting. So this gives you a closer view of kind of what it looks like. What they did with this particular hole is they built a concrete barrier around it and then actually sprayed the top of probably the first 30 feet full of concrete to keep it from caving in, and then put a steel structure around it, which was actually very helpful for rigging. I'll show you a close-up again in a moment. It'll make more sense. Okay, so this is an overview, a top view of the hole, and you can see the concrete and how they've bolted in the steel banner there. And it shows us it was helpful because when we put up a tripod, the TerrAdaptor, and actually drilled holes into the concrete, and were able to make the whole rigging very stable. So there at the bottom as well, it kind of shows you, this is a good overview of there are actually two robin holes. This is the one that they brought when they brought in the samples that the crystals were actually found in. This was just another hole they drilled, and we did not go down that hole. So I'm going to talk a little bit about gear. And of course, you know, this is a PMI webinar, and you know, I have to talk about the PMI rope because we had a lot of it, and it was fantastic for this project. You know, we needed something that was high quality and was going to last down in that environment because there was a lot of heat and a lot of water. And like I said, this hole is 2,000 feet down, so we needed a lot of rope. Here's just another example of the amount of rope and the organization that it requires to do this kind of a drop. And then another product that actually, piece of gear that was just invaluable was the TerrAdaptor, the Multi-Pod. And this, you know, as most of you probably know, this is a confined space environment, and so it really helps to have that high directional to drop your person or whatever you're dropping down the hole. So this was definitely a valuable tool for us. Another thing, we went into this knowing that it was a possibility of we have to drop the hole on our own. We were ready to go. We had brake racks. We had climbing systems, and we were prepared to do it all on our own. But we actually found that using a winch was much more efficient, fast, and we did a lot of our lowering and raising with a winch that was attached to the truck that you see there. You can see Jason and I hauling. So just to give you some kind of behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to make this kind of a documentary. Everything had a camera on it, including our helmets. So they drilled holes into our helmets and put cameras on top of our heads, and so we walked around constantly with cameras on our heads. And not only cameras on our heads, but cameras in our faces when we were out of the cave as well. They were always filming whatever we were doing. These are just pictures of, again, filming and having that camera in your face. So they were everywhere all the time, even after 14 hours down in the cave and coming up, and we were extremely tired and dirty, and all that was being filmed. So this just shows you it is a lot of work. There are long days on the set, but it also is a lot of sitting around. As you can see, I'm sitting around quite a bit, waiting for people to come up out of the cave, lowering people into the cave, and just kind of hanging out, waiting for the day to end. So, going back to the exploration of the new cave. This picture here on the left that you're looking at, this is Mark going down into the cave. And our first time down, we didn't actually know if there was anything down there. So we just were lowered down until we found a place that we could explore. And these are great pictures of just different times that we were lowering and raising people. We did take down a lot of equipment. A couple of the cameramen went down to do some filming, and some photographers as well. So down this hole, about 450 feet down, we did discover a cave, and it was this basically a little crack in the side of the wall that you just picked your head into, and you can feel, you stick your hand right in there, and it's this tremendous amount of heat, very hot and very humid. So this is the point where we thought, well, we've scored, we've got something, and we swung in to this area and made it safe, and went back, and it kind of opened up into this room, and sure enough, we hit the jackpot for sure. The picture on the right kind of shows you, it's a little hard to show the opening of the cave, since it was a fairly small crack. You kind of had to shimmy through, and then it opened up. But it's a little hard to show the opening. But that picture on the right is the opening of the cave. Maybe these are better pictures. The picture on the bottom here shows Mark and Justin sitting right on the edge, and this area here is where the entrance was. You can kind of see the ropes hanging down at the entrance, and they were just taking notes and documenting the cave itself. So again, with the heat. The top two pictures kind of show you that how hot it was, and it definitely fluctuated, mostly because of the air running down the robin hole, but the humidity was just intense. And we did take a thermometer down there and to see how hot it was, and it did fluctuate quite a bit, but anywhere between 100 and 115 degrees Fahrenheit to 125 degrees Fahrenheit. So depending on where you were in the cave and what the air was doing down the robin hole, it fluctuated throughout the 5 days that we were there. This shows another picture of kind of the opening of the cave, and this is where you can see the ropes here and this small opening. Another fantastic image of that opening of the cave, and it did drop off here, but as you moved backwards, the cave opened up, and and that's where all the crystals began. So going back to the crystals, and we'll get to the big crystal cave here in a moment, but again, the reason why we're here is because there was evidence of that gypsum, the selenite crystals. And we did find crystals in this cave, but they were very, very small. So come to find out that this actual cave was never underwater, so it didn't have that environment of temperature of the water to create those crystals. In this picture, actually, Mark is taking a sample of one of the crystals, and these are hair-thin crystals. You actually could blow on them, and they would move. And but the scientists definitely wanted some sort of evidence of that gypsum as they were studying all the caves in the area. So again, this is another picture of Mark taking a sample of the crystal, and you can see in his fingertip how thin and delicate it really, really is. You can also see by the sweat on his face how hot it is. And I love this picture because it does show how thin and how hair-like the crystals in this particular cave are. This is a photo taken by one of the National Geographic photographers, and he went down for the day and took some amazing photographs. This is a close-up of those hair gypsums, and this is a very small, I mean, you could hold this particular crystal in your hand. It's like bird's nest of crystals in your hand. Again, with the close-up shot. So another amazing part of this cave, and one of the reasons why we actually named this cave Palace of Ice, because there was a part of the cave that was just covered in cauliflower crystals. As you can see, this is Manuel. He's one of the videographers, and the ceiling and the floor were completely covered in these cauliflower crystals, and white and sparkly, and it would just look like this Palace of Ice. So that's where we came up with the name as a team. These are more shots from the Nat Geo photographer. They're just amazing. I mean, the lighting is fabulous, but when you're in there, it is very much like this. It's very dreamlike, and it almost looks like you're under the water with a bunch of coral everywhere. Some more shots of the cauliflower. But as you can see, the openings are very small. There's a lot of places that you do have to crawl around. I'm fairly tall, and I never actually got to stand up straight anywhere in this cave. So, if you're anywhere over 6 foot, you wouldn't be able to stand up anywhere. So another great example of the beauty of the cauliflower, the ice palace itself. So I want to explain this picture really quick because this truly was a true honor to be a part of this project. And one of the main reasons is that the 4 of us from Strike Rescue, we were the first people into this cave, and we each took turns going into a part of the cave that no one had ever been in. And so this picture is actually, this was an area of the cave that no one had been, and so I was the first person there. And I don't know how to convey how amazing that is, just to think about that. And I just have to say that that was just a true honor. So this picture was taken with me. I don't know, just exploring something new that no one has ever explored. So this is just another picture of Justin shimmying through the cave, doing some exploration. And we did try, we definitely tried to be as careful as possible. We had one way in and one way out. try not to disturb a lot of the formations and things like that. You can see a lot of it looks really dusty on the bottom on the floor, and it was, and I believe that was probably from the drilling that happened when they made the robin holes. So a self-portrait of Mark shimmying through the cave. So the first 5 days, that's what we spent our time doing. We spent our time exploring that new cave and documenting it, taking samples, doing film work, and taking photographs. And then the show must go on. It is a film, and we were there to do a job. So on to the next project. And the next project was actually going into the famous caves, the crystal caves, the big caves that you have seen pictures of and on TV. And actually, this is a picture here that you're looking at. And it does, Superman lives there, and it does look like that. It completely looks like you're on a movie set. It does not look real, I have to say, and it's just amazing. You could tell the people that are in the cave in this photograph that they look small, they look miniature, and you definitely feel like you're on another planet. So Naica, the cave, crystal caves are not foreign to this area. They found a cave in 1910 I mentioned earlier, the cave called the Cave of Swords. And this has since been destroyed just by the mine. I don't think it was intentional. It's like the tunnel itself to the cave has been destroyed. So you can no longer access it. But in the year 2000, 3 other caves were discovered. And these were discovered accidentally, mainly because the area that they are in, the cave, Naica had, the water had been drained from that area. They basically ran into these caves as they were building the tunnels. So the caves that are in, they're all kind of in the same proximity as well. So you have Queen's Eye, Candles, and then Crysalis. And Crysalis is the big cave. And they have, some of the crystals are over 34.5 feet tall. So they're massive, massive crystals. And this just gives you a little bit of an example. When we were talking about the temperature earlier in the other caves, these caves as well are very, very hot. And that was one of the reasons why they were formed, was because of that heat and being underwater, keeping that stable temperature over time. The minerals basically just became crystals. So another thing with these crystals, a ton of scientists have been in this area. All sorts of different scientists that study the water and the minerals and the crystals themselves. So it was kind of an eye-opening experience. There were about a dozen scientists at the time we were there, just taking samples and talking about the different geology of how it was formed and when it was formed, and just amazing what they can figure out just by taking a sample of a rock. So in the crystal cave itself, the largest crystal, as I mentioned, was, I said 35, I'm sorry, 37.4 feet tall. They measured all of them. And that is really, just if you think about that, like what is 37 feet tall? Well, that's really amazing to see a natural, a crystal just being grown, and I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words, because it basically is, you walk in there and you are at a loss for words pretty much. So again, back in 2000, these caves were found, and the Discovery Channel decided to take on the filming of the project. There were other projects that were created, the Naica project, and that kind of just basically gets people like us into that area, and we were able to film. The National Geographic was able to film. This just gives you an example of all of the scientists that have been in that area. So the Crystal Cave itself is 950 feet underground, and to get to this particular area, we were basically shoved in a van, and we drove down. It takes about 20 minutes to drive to the opening of the cave, and we hung out in the tunnel, getting ready to film and doing and basically acclimating, because the tunnel itself is about 90 to 95 degrees. So it's hot in the tunnel before you actually go into the cave. They do have a lot of different things set up, like the picture on the left. They have air-conditioned tents, so you can go in and cool off because of the extreme environment that you're putting your body in. And you can see the guys in the picture on the right-hand side are laying in front of the air conditioner just to cool down. So back to the temperature. It's a consistent 122 degrees Fahrenheit. The humidity does fluctuate, but around usually around 90 to 100% humidity. So you walk in there and you're immediately dripping wet, and you can feel your body trying to breathe slower. It was very, very intense. The picture to the right, this wall here that you can see in that photograph, this is a plexiglass wall, and they have done this for numerous reasons. One, it does keep the tunnel a little cooler for any workers that are in there. The mine still does do work in this area. Another reason why they have blocked it off with this wall is that a lot of people are going in there, a lot of workers are going in there and actually robbing, taking the crystals and damaging the area. So that was one of the reasons why that is. You see that plexiglass there. So another way to keep yourself cool in this environment. When the first exploration went through this cave, the Italians, back in 2000 and 2005, they created these suits that you see in this image. And under these orange jackets are vests that have sections in them that you put ice cubes in to keep your core temperature down, so you can stay longer in that environment. And these are really made for a lot of the researchers and really the film crew, because the film crew is in there a lot longer than any of the scientists or the explorers are. And one of the main reasons is because the equipment has to go in up to 3 hours ahead of any time that they're going to film, so they can acclimate, so cameras can acclimate to that humidity. You can also see the packs on their back, and that's filled with ice as well, and then it goes to the rebreather and cools the lungs, so it keeps your core temperature down. So one of the main reasons why Strike Rescue was here, we were part of the film, and because we could move a little faster through the area, and we also wanted to explore some of the areas that people didn't get to back in 2005. There are some really small areas that possibly could go into another cave, but because of the extreme temperatures, no one has had the chance to do so, and probably never will. But another reason why we were there, we were creating a little bit more of a safe environment, because these crystals, as big as they are and as thick as they are, they're still pretty fragile, and it can be a little dangerous in the area. So we created hand lines, and we guided the scientists to the areas that they were filming, and we helped the film crew with the cameras and anything that they needed along those lines. So this picture gives you kind of an overview of how they kept track of what we were doing and how long we spent inside of the cave. So your name would be written down, and then what time you entered, and then what time you came out, and then the cumulative time that you spent inside the cave throughout the day. The longest that I actually spent in the cave was about 35 minutes, and that was without a suit, and that, I have to say, it was definitely plenty for me. You know, you have to come out, cool your body, your core temperature down, and then you can go back in again at a later time. I do believe that Mark, a couple of the guys actually spent longer than that, up to 40 minutes, 45 minutes at one time without a suit on. And another thing too, they did have pulse ox. They had the Red Cross there as medical, and so that was very helpful if anyone needed help. So these are some pictures from our first time into the crystal cave, and you can just see the size of the crystals, and us walking along the planks of crystals. And this is a great example of the suit being used. This is actually a picture of the Italian explorers back in 2005, and they used the suits a lot so they could spend a lot of time in there. I'm not sure exactly how long the majority of them spent, but I would say even with the suits, longer than an hour is pushing it because of the extreme heat. But this does show you, gives you a great example of the size and the magnitude of the crystals themselves. And just some more pictures of, shows the beauty of it. I will say this is a good picture of the film, the cameras, and how they had to set them up, and that was the most challenging part of it, because they were so jagged and uneven, and so to make the camera stable was very tricky, and they spent a lot of time doing that. So any time that you see the film, in the film Into the Lost Crystal Cave, you see film from inside of the cave. That was a really, that's probably the most dangerous job, I would say. And again, this is another, towards the back of the cave, and you can just see the person on the left and how dwarfed he is by the size of the crystal. So I thank you so much for your time, and I just wanted, you know, it was a quick presentation, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a kind of behind the scenes and how something like this works. When you're exploring and you're filming, it's kind of an interesting balance. But if you have any questions or want to know any specifics, I'd be happy to try to answer anything I can. So, anybody have any questions?
You can type your questions into the chat/questions area of the control panel, and then I'll go ahead and ask Angie if you have any. And also, you'll be able to ask questions in the future. I'm going to be posting Angie's email on our website, and I'll show the link to that in a little bit. So if you have questions afterwards, you can always ask them afterwards as well. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of do a little bit of a wrap-up of this, and if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into your chat/questions area of your control panel, and then I will ask Angie. If not, you can go ahead and put them into an email and ask Angie at this link that is shown on your screen right now. Also, we host these webinars once a month, and we host them from a variety of presentations on topics and on a variety of topics and a variety of presenters. So we like to keep the topics very up to date with what's going on in the industry. So we generally don't choose a topic until a couple of weeks out. So keep your calendar open on January 4th and keep an eye on the link at the website to see what the topic is going to be. And for news and updates on the webinars and also just on general PMI events and where we're going to be and what's going on with us, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter, and those are the links shown below. And we did have one question, and it was, how long was your entire trip?
It was a total of 14 days, so 2 weeks.
Okay, and did you lower the... Oh, did you go lower than the 450-foot mark into the Robin Hole?
We did. Actually, just one of us did. Mark went down all the way to the bottom, and it was a little over 2,000 feet. And when I mean the bottom, it was the bottom. It was actually the mine floor. The mine itself goes all the way down to 2,000 feet. So he dropped all the way down, actually ran into some miners, and we hauled him back up. So.
Awesome. Okay. Well, if you have any other questions, go ahead and email them to Angie. That email button will be up within about an hour, and the presentation, the recording of the presentation, and also the slides from the presentation are going to be available on that website as well within 24 hours. So thank you so much for attending, and thank you for your time. And Angie, thank you for doing this. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody have a great day.